out at Disney, they tricked me, but
Hello, this tutorial is inspired by my daughter Jamie. I asked her for what song she would like me to do a tutorial and she replied with this title of the song. The song is in key of C major and I think these are the chords. F major 7th, you have your index finger on the 2nd string at 1st fret, middle finger on the 3rd string at 2nd fret, and ring finger on the 4th string at 3rd fret. The 5th and the 6th strings are marked dead, so they should not be strummed. The 1st string is left open, so you strum 4 strings. G dominant 7th, index finger on the 1st string at 1st fret, middle finger on the 5th string at 2nd fret, ring finger on the 6th string at 3rd fret. The other strings are left open, so you strum 6 strings. C major 7th, middle finger on the 4th string at 2nd fret, ring finger on the 5th string at 3rd fret. The 1st and the 2nd strings as well as the 3rd strings are left open, but the 6th string is marked with X, so you strum 5 strings. C major 7 is just like C major without the index finger. A major, as you can see, all 3 dots are at 2nd fret. You have your index finger on the 4th string, middle finger on the 3rd string, ring finger on the 2nd string. The 1st string and the 5th strings are left open, but the 6th string is marked with X, so you strum 5 strings. A dominant 7th, index finger on the 4th string at 2nd fret, ring finger on the 2nd string at 2nd fret. The 5th, the 3rd, and the 1st strings are left open. You can think of A dominant 7 as just like an A major without the middle finger. E minor, middle finger on the 5th string at 2nd fret, ring finger on the 4th string at 2nd fret. The other strings are left open, so you strum 6 strings. F major. This chord is a bar chord as you have to use your index finger as a bar to press all 6 strings. And so, based on the diagram, you have your index finger to press all 6 strings at 1st fret. And your middle finger goes on the 3rd string at 2nd fret, ring finger on the 5th string at 3rd fret, and the pinky or the small finger on the 4th string at 3rd fret. No dead string, so you strum all 6 strings. G major, index finger on the 5th string at 2nd fret, middle finger on the 6th string at 3rd fret, and ring finger on the 1st string at 3rd fret. The other strings are left open, so you strum 6 strings. The next chord is actually an inversion of F major. We call it F/A. And based from that diagram, you have your index finger as a partial bar finger, just pressing the 1st and the 2nd string at 1st fret. Or you can actually raise it to cover 4 strings, up to 4th string. Your middle finger on the 3rd string at 2nd fret, and ring finger on the 4th string at 3rd fret. The 5th string is left open. The 6th string is marked with X, and so it must not be played. The 5th string is the bass note for this chord, so you strum from here. So for this chord, F/A, you strum 5 strings. A minor, index finger on the 2nd string at 1st fret, middle finger on the 4th string at 2nd fret, and ring finger on the 3rd string at 2nd fret. The 5th string is left open, the 6th string is marked with X, the 1st string is left open too. So you strum 5 strings. C major, index finger on the 2nd string at 1st fret, middle finger on the 4th string at 2nd fret, ring finger on the 5th string at 3rd fret. The 3rd and the 1st strings are left open. The 6th string is marked with X, so it must not be played. So you strum 5 strings. So based on my study of the song, those are the chords that we can use to play this song. The first 8 measures of the song are not played with chords, but with a series of notes. But this style of playing is not for beginners, so I introduce chords for the first 8 measures. So for the first measure, it's F major 7th. And for the strumming pattern, I suggest you do whole note rhythm. And for whole note rhythm, it's just strumming it once right at count 1 and hold the sound for that measure. So it goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then on the second measure it's G dominant 7th, and you keep the same strumming pattern or rhythmic pattern, which is whole note rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then on the third measure it's for C major 7th. And for C major 7th, as you have learned earlier, it's just with 2 fingers, the middle and the ring finger. Since you're coming from G dominant 7th going to C major 7th, all you have to do is bring your middle and ring finger 1 string down, and then take out the index finger and strum from 5th string down. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the 4th measure it's for A dominant 7th. And earlier you have learned that A dominant 7 is played with index finger and ring finger here. It's just like an A major but without the middle finger. But since for this song we're coming from C major 7th, which is this one, I would suggest that you use the other fingers for playing A dominant 7th. You keep your middle finger on that string. Just bring down your ring finger to 2nd string at 2nd fret. Now this is A dominant 7th. So you strum A dominant 7th once right at count 1 and hold it for the whole measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the 5th measure, back to F major 7th, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the 6th measure for G dominant 7th, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then on the 7th measure C major 7th, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the 8th measure it's for A major, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so if I'm going to play the first 8 measures, it's going to sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 so our strumming pattern for the first 8 measures is a basic rhythmic pattern or basic strumming pattern, which we call whole note. And for whole note, you just strum the chord right at count 1 and keep it ringing for the whole measure. If you are not familiar to basic strumming patterns, click this link for that lesson. The first 8 measures is actually the verse or the verse 1 of the song. And after that, we move to pre-chorus. And these are the chords for pre-chorus. And the pattern that I'm suggesting is shown here. And as you can see, there are downstrokes and upstrokes. Downstroke at count 1, at count 2, at count 3, and at count 4. But you have upstrokes between counts 2 and 3, right on the letter N, between counts 3 and 4, right on the letter N between 3 and 4, and another one on the N after count 4, or between counts 4 and 1 of the next measure. And that pattern is actually a series of quarter note and 8 notes. The downstroke at count 1 is actually a quarter note, and the strokes that follows are actually 8 notes. So it goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So this is the sound of the pattern that I'm suggesting for the pre-chorus as well as the chorus part. So with chords, starting with F, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then it's followed by G major, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and to E minor. Now from G to E minor, you can actually keep your index finger on that string. Just move your middle finger to 4th string. All you have to do is move your index finger back to give room for the middle finger, and then take out the ring finger. And then do the suggested rhythmic pattern: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But on the next measure, as you can see here, you have A major, but you're not going to use the suggested rhythmic pattern, but it's just a single downstroke right at count 1, and then you see the word break, and that means you have to stop the ringing of the strings when you get to count 2. And how is that? It's like this. So this is A major chord, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you strum it right at count 1, 1 and as you get to count 2, you stop the strings from ringing. That's what break means. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then going to the next measure, that's where the chorus part begins. And as you can see, the chord is F/A, and you do the same pattern, the one that I'm suggesting. And this is F/A, so we do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then goes to G for the next measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to E minor, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to A minor, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and F/A again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to G major chord, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But on the next measure, you see the word break right at count 1, and that means for that measure it's rest or silence. So when you strum G on the previous measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and when you go to the next measure or next count 1, you have to stop the strings from ringing. And as you can see, the silence or the break is good for 2 measures. So there's no strumming or no playing of chords for that 2 measures. So if I'm going to play from F/A up to that measures, it's going to sound like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 then on the next measure it's F/A. So you position your fingers for that chord and strum 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to G major, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to C major, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then to A major, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Interlude follows the chorus, as you can see here. The interlude is played with the same sequence of chords: F major 7th, followed by G dominant 7th, C major 7th, and A major. And for this part, you don't have to do whole note rhythm. You can continue the pattern that I'm suggesting. So for the interlude, it goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 then after the interlude is verse 2. And as you can see, you have the same sequence of chords. You just play it with the same rhythmic pattern that I'm suggesting. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 after this verse you have to repeat pre-chorus. So we play the pre-chorus part for one more time, and you see the chords. It begins with F major, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 you play it exactly the way you played it the first time. And then after we repeat the pre-chorus, we go back to chorus part. And here it's shown, it begins with F/A, so we continue with the suggested rhythmic pattern, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 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 and 3 and 4 and then it's followed again by another interlude. As you can see, we have the same sequence of chords and you use the same rhythmic pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 then you can hear again the series of notes, but as like what I said earlier, it's not for beginners. So for beginners, just play those chords, and for this time you do whole note rhythm. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 this would be the last chord. So all you have to do is hold it as long as you can. But if you want to learn to play those notes, then you will have to learn how to read the tablature, as I'm using the tablature to teach you how to play those notes and what are those notes. And as you can see here, for F major 7, there are 5 notes. And you see lines. You see 6 lines. Those lines are actually the strings. So those lines represent the strings. Looking at those lines, the one you see at the bottom is actually the 6th string. And the one you see at the top is actually the 1st string. So for you not to get confused, all you have to do is, when you're reading the tablature, just look down on your guitar or position your guitar like this. Look down on the fretboard. This is the fretboard, by the way. So when you look down on the fretboard, that's what actually you would see. So the bottom line on the tablature, that's actually the string that is closest to you, the 6th string. And the top line on the tablature, that's actually the 1st string. And the numbers that you see on the tablature represent the frets. So the first number that you see, the one at the extreme left, is 5. Now that tells you you have to play the 5th string. The 5 doesn't represent the 5th string, but the fret. But look at the line. Like what I said earlier, the bottom line is the 6th string. But that line where you see number 5 is actually on the next line or the next string, and that would be the 5th string. And the number 5 there, that's the 5th fret. So if I'm going to hold the guitar properly, you will have to play this string right here at 5th fret. And the next number that you see is 5 also. So that means you're going to play that note twice. So I'm just playing it slow, but you'll have to memorize the melody of those notes for you to be able to give the right rhythm for those notes. So it starts with 5. It's followed by the same number on the same string. So you just pick it again. And then the next number that you see is 3. And that number is on the 4th string. So here. So we go to this string and play it at 4th fret. And this time I'm going to use my ring finger. So this is the 4th string at 3rd fret. And then the next number that you see is number 2, and it's on another line, and that would be the 3rd string. And the number 2 tells you it would be the 2nd fret. So I'm going to play the 3rd string at 2nd fret, which you see here, and I'm going to play it with my middle finger. And then the last number that you see is 1, and it's on another line, and that line is the 2nd string. And the number 1 that you see there, it represents 1st fret. So that means I need to use my index finger to play that, and it's here. So again, 5, 5, and then 3, 2, 1. That's what you would hear. But actually, the sound is muted. The way I play it, the note is clear. But as you can hear, it sounds muted. So that means you'll have to do something to make the sound muted. And the way to do that is you need to use the palm of your right hand to mute the strings. And that would mean you have to rest this side of your palm right here on the strings at the bridge. As you can hear, now the sound is muted when I do that. See? Compared to when I'm not resting my palm on the bridge, the sounds are all clear and full. But with its edge of my palm on the bridge, it's going to mute the strings. This is what we call palm muting, and this is what you're going to use or to apply to create those sounds. So you will have to rest your palm all the time when you're playing those sequence of notes. And so with my palm, or with the edge of my palm resting on the bridge, and then I'll play the notes. Now it sounds muted, right? So that's how you do it. So that's what we are going to apply for the first 8 measures of the song, or actually for the first verse of the song, palm muting. And as a recap for F major 7th, for the fingering, I use my pinky for those notes with number 5. So you have to distribute those notes. That's the reason why I have my pinky for those notes on the 5th string at 5th fret. The proper way of playing these notes is to distribute them with your 4 fingers. So for those notes at 5th fret, I would have my pinky there, or small finger. And then for the one at 3rd fret, the one with number 3 on the tablature, that would be for my ring finger. And then for the one at 2nd fret, that would be for my middle finger. And then for the one at 1st fret, that would be for my index finger. And then again, since they are muted, so I'll have to rest this edge of my palm on the bridge. So it sounds like this, right? And we do the same for the next measure for G dominant 7th. And you see also 5 numbers or 5 notes. The first one, which is number 3, is on the bottom string, and that's the 6th string. And you see number 3, that means you'll have to play the 6th string at 3rd fret. And for this bunch of notes, I'll begin with my index finger for the one at 3rd fret. So I'll start with my index finger here. And then the next is number 5. That means on the 5th string at 5th fret, and that would be for my ring finger. And then the next number that follows that is number 3, and it's on the 4th string. And the number 3 tells you that it would be at 3rd fret. And for that, I'll be using my index. So that means I'll move my index finger down to 4th string at 3rd fret. There. Then the next number is 5, still on the same string. And then that would be for my ring finger to play the same string at 5th fret. And then the last note, the one with number 4, is on the 3rd string at 4th fret. And that would be for my middle finger. So that sequence of notes goes like this: 3, 5, 3, 5, 4. But the sounds are muted, then don't forget to apply the palm muting technique. And again, with the edge of my right hand resting on the saddle of the bridge, then it's gonna sound like this. And we apply the same for the next chord, C major 7th, on the 3rd measure. And reading the tablature, you see number 3, that means 3rd fret, and it's on the line that represents the 5th string. And I'll start this sequence of notes with my middle finger here. So you see 3 twice, so that means you play that note twice. And then the next number is 2, which is on the next string, and that would be the 4th string. And the number 2 there tells you that that string would be played at 2nd fret, and that would be for my index finger. That's the reason why I'm starting with my middle finger for notes number 3. So I have my index finger ready for the note at 2nd fret, which is represented by number 2. So again, from the first note, 3, the second note is also another 3. The third one is number 2, and that means it's 2nd fret on the 4th string. And then it's followed by number 5 on the same string. That means play the same string at 5th fret. And then it's followed by 4 on the next line, and that will be the 3rd string played at 4th fret. I'll be using my ring finger for that note. So the sequence goes like this: 3, 3, 2, 5, 4. And since they are supposed to be muted, that means I will have my palm again, this side or this edge of my palm on the saddle of the bridge. So it sounds like this. And then going to the 4th measure for A dominant 7th, we also see 5 notes. And the first one is 5, and that will be on the 6th string, as it's on the bottom string. So it's the 6th string. The number 5 tells you to play the 6th string at 5th fret. And I'll start that sequence with my index finger. So 5, that would be for my index finger on the 6th string at 5th fret. It's followed by number 7, and as you can see, it's on the next line, and that's the 5th string. And the number 7 tells you it would be played, or it should be played at 7th fret. And I'll be using my ring finger for that. And then the third number is 5 again, but on the next line, and that will be the fourth string. And I'll be using my index finger, as my index finger is at the vicinity of the 5th fret, right? So use the same finger here. The next note is still on the same string or same line, but it has 7th fret. And since I have my ring finger within the area of 7th fret, then I'll use my ring finger for that note. And then the last note is number 6. It's on the next line, and that would be the 3rd string at 6th fret. And I have my middle finger for that note. So the sequence goes like this: 5, 7, 5, 7, 6. And since these notes are muted, that means I have to put I have to position again the edge of my palm on the saddle, on the bridge, and play those notes. There. The 5th measure is just a repetition of the first measure. The chords are the same. The note sequence are the same. The 6th measure is just the repetition of the 2nd measure. You have the same chords and same sequence of notes. The 7th measure is just the repetition of the 3rd measure. You have the same chord, C major 7. And the 8th measure is just a repetition of the 4th measure, although on the 4th measure the chord is A dominant 7, and on the 8th measure it's A major, but we have the same sequence of notes. So all you have to do is play those sequence of notes one more time. So you do F major 7, and then to G dominant 7, and then to C major 7, and then to A dominant 7, and then to 5th measure, back to F major 7, to 6th measure for G dominant 7, for 7th measure for C major 7th, and to 8th measure for A major. And you will have to do the same style of playing for the interlude. As you can see, you have the same sequence of chords and the same set of notes. And again, don't forget to position the edge of your right hand palm on the saddle of the bridge, and you play these notes. So for F major 7, and then for G dominant 7, and then for C major 7, and then for A major, and then you continue the same style for the next verse, which is actually verse 2. And you'll do another round for the next line, since the verse is actually 2 rounds of that sequence of chords. So F major, back to F major 7, to G dominant 7, to C major 7, and then to A major. For the last line of the song, you see another tablature and a different series of notes. But actually, the melody is still the same. It's just that this set of notes are at a higher registry, an octave higher than the previous ones. So for F major 7, as you can see, now you have number 12, and that's on the 4th string. So this string, you have to play the 12th fret, and this is the 12th fret on my guitar. And the first and the seconds are both number 12, so that means I'm going to play this twice, right? But it would be better if you started with your ring finger. as the next number is 10 on the third string, and that 10 means 10th fret, so you go down to third string at 10th fret. So this would be your third note. So from 12, 12, 12, 12, 10, and then the next number is another 10 but on the next string, and that string is the second string. So all you have to do is collapse, or it would be better if you at the beginning have your index finger as a bar to cover both strings. So you play the third string at 10th fret and followed by the second string at 10th fret. So from the first note it goes like this, right? And then the fifth or the last is on the same string, which is second string, but at 13th fret, and I have my pinky or small finger for that here. So it goes like this. And as you can hear, you have the same melody, but it sounds higher. It's actually at higher registry. And then the next set of notes for G dominant 7th, as you can see, the first one is numbered 9 and it's on the 4th string also, and that means you have to play the 4th string at 9th fret, and this is the 9th fret on my guitar, and this is on the 4th string, and then it's followed by 12 on the same string. That means you'll still play the 4th string at 12th fret. So from 9th fret followed by the one at 12th fret, so I'll play my 12th fret with my small finger. So index finger for the one at 9th fret, and for the one at 12th fret, that would be for my small finger or pinky. And then it's followed by number 10 on the next line or string, and that will be the 3rd string, and the 10 tells you it's at 10th fret. So I have my middle finger for that, so I'll play the 3rd string at 10th fret with my middle finger. And then for the next note, which is number 12 on the same string, that means you will still have to play the 3rd string at 12th fret. By this time, I have my pinky ready for that. And then for the last note, which is also number 12, but on the next string, and that string is the 2nd string to be played at 12th fret. So to do that, I just have to collapse my small finger to cover that string. So like this. So that means I'm using the pad of my pinky or small finger to press both strings, the 3rd and the 2nd string. So again, there. And then for the next bunch of notes for C major 7th, as you can see, the first one is number 10 on the 4th string, and this is the 4th string. The number 10 tells you it should be played at 10th fret, and this is the 10th fret. And again, I'll be using my middle finger because I know that after playing the first two notes, both 10, I have to play a note at 9th fret, so that will be covered by my index finger. So with my middle finger for 4th string at 10th fret, I have my index finger ready for the note at 9th fret there. So again, from the first two notes, 10, 10, and then 9th on the 3rd string here, and then the 4th note is still on the same string, 3rd string, but at 12th fret, and I have my small finger ready for that, so I'll play it with my small finger. And then it's followed by number 12 again, but on the 2nd string on the next line. And just like what I did earlier, to be able to play this string at the same fret or at 12th fret, all I have to do is just collapse my small finger so that the pad of my small finger presses both strings, the 3rd and the 2nd string. So for that set of notes, it goes like this. And then lastly, for A major, or for the last chord, or for the last set of notes, you see number 12, and that's on the 5th string at 12th fret, and this is the 12th fret on my guitar. And I'll begin this set of notes with my index finger. So I have my index finger on the 5th string at 12th fret, then it's followed by 14 on the next line, and that would be the 4th string, so at 14th fret here. And then it's followed by 12 on the next line, and that would be the 3rd string. So I would have my index finger ready for that. And then the next note is 14, still on the same string, and I have my ring finger for that. And then the last note is another 14, but on the next line, and that would be the 2nd string. So again, I'll use the same finger, but I'll have to collapse it so that I'll be able to use the pad of my ring finger to cover both strings, the 3rd and the 2nd string, right at 14th fret. So to play that sequence of notes, we have there. I hope you find this tutorial helpful in learning to play this song as a beginner on guitar or as an intermediate player. And the playthrough or the demonstration of this playing is given in this link. Don't forget to click the like if you like this tutorial, and also share this so that others would also learn from this tutorial. And subscribe if you haven't done it yet, so you don't miss any upload in the future. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Jamie.